Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to Alternative Inspiration Practitioner Applications of AI and Student Athlete Support Services, Part 2 of the Generative AI webinar series. This session will include live demonstrations and commentary from multiple practitioner perspectives with the aim of providing insight into ways you might begin or continue to infuse AI into your day. It should be noted that this is intended for informational purposes and not a sponsored event or promotion of any specific tools. We will first start with my avatar colleague, a familiar face, Chaz, to introduce our pilots for the journey today.
Hello. I am Zach's updated avatar, Chaz 2.0, and was created for free and scripted in minutes using Vidnars. I am excited to be part of today's production and show one way to use AI when the content of a presentation can be delegated. Today, we will embark on a journey exploring the ability to utilize generative AI in areas related to the practitioner. This adventure will be led by Rachel Rodriguez and Janelle Nguyen, and it is my pleasure to introduce them. Rachel has served as a customer success manager for Game Plan since March 2022. She works with college athletic departments to successfully implement and utilize the all-in-one development platform to help serve their student athletes, coaches, and staff. Rachel also spent 9 years in college athletics with experience in media relations, academic advising, and student-athlete development. Janelle Nguyen is a learning and development specialist for the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee. She focuses on staff career, leadership, and personal development programming for U.S. Olympic and One Paralympic Committee, national governing bodies, and the LA 28 Olympic Organization. Janelle spent several years in college athletics with experience in DEIB, student-athlete and AMP, staff development, academic advising, and fundraising. I will now turn it over to Janelle to get us started.
We would now like to first begin with a poll, so thanks, Chaz, for getting us kicked off. Let's keep it rolling and get an idea who's with us in the audience with that poll. You should see the prompt coming up shortly.
Oh, so sorry, I was on mute. Hi, all. Zach, if you want to pull up those results, we'll see. Okay, there we go. Awesome. So just wanted to get an idea of how we all felt about AI and who is with us today. So there's a pretty even split. So I think a lot of us in the audience do feel that integrity nightmare piece. Definitely, I'm in that second boat, totally lost, but really, really excited to learn. So can't wait to hear from our presenters today. And love those who really value that curiosity and innovation. I agree, definitely think it's awesome. I'd love to see a small percent of us using it in our day-to-day. And then I see a lot of people are using it occasionally. And then looking at the policy culture around AI, it does look like the majority are utilizing it and discussing it frequently, which I think is good. It's kind of one of those things that um, is not probably going away. So it's good to be having those conversations about it. 100%. So awesome. Thank you all for completing that poll. Um, so we're actually going to jump right in. And kicking things off today will be Dr. JT Torres. So Dr. Torres is the director of the Center for Teaching and Learning at Quinnipiac University. He holds a PhD in educational psychology and researches student identity across several contexts. He also chairs the AI Committee on Teaching and Learning. So, Dr. Torres, we talked a little bit, as we were prepping for this, and AI terrifies me. End of story. I have used AI once since it has become mainstream, and it seems a little bit daunting, a little bit scary, and I just don't know where to start. So, given your experience, please help me and others who may be in that same boat.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. I also want to just like share some empathy that, the curiosity that I have towards AI isn't necessarily always just expertise. Like I am not knowledgeable necessarily. I am also just trying to figure out how to use it in my daily life. But I think, Rachel, that we've actually been using AI for years already. Like ChatGPT hit the scene last year and really took the floor out from underneath us, where we thought that we had to totally reinvent how we behave in society. But we've already been doing this for many years. For instance, how many of you, when you're texting your friend and maybe you're getting like really enthusiastic or angry, and you're typing out what might be a vulgar word, and you see that it came out as, "Man, I can't believe the ducking Eagles lost." And like no one ever meant to use ducking. So what happened? Where this word that we typed to get this emotional reaction changed its spelling and became something else. We all know autocorrect is so aggravating sometimes. That's AI. We've had it already. It's been part of our discourse using text messaging. When I drive to campus, to my university at Quinnipiac, and I am stopped at like 3 red lights on the way in, and I'm like, man, who times these lights? That's AI, right? Like the data of traffic flows and patterns contributing to artificial decision making, right? That's what AI is. We've had this technology for many years. Out of plus side, because I know those are 2 negative examples, how many of you have discovered a new song that you liked because it showed up on your Spotify algorithm, or YouTube just suggested it to you, and you're like, a brand new artist, new music, had no idea that I was going to be so emotionally moved by this artist, and now you start listening to them every day. That suggestion, again, came from these mechanisms that are the precursors to AI as we know it today. So that has helped a little bit with my concerns and my anxieties, but also it's really taken charge of my curiosity in terms of, what does this mean for the future and where do we go from here? And I am equally excited to learn from all of us on the panel.
Wow. I will say, holy cow, those are things that I didn't even think of. Autocorrect being like the craziest one. But love that you used the example of Spotify. I have discovered so many cool new artists on Spotify because of, probably their AI algorithm. Um, so I can definitely say that my level of fear has been significantly reduced. Because I never realized this is something we use on a daily basis. So now that I'm a little more confident about how AI can operate in our daily lives, I'm curious if there are other uses for this technology to just enhance our day-to-day lives or even make our jobs easier. I think our next presenter has some great insight and tips to share for those who want to explore AI and its everyday uses. Carly Head is currently in her 11th year of working in athletic academic advising at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, serving as assistant director. She's currently the academic advisor for wrestling. Her primary responsibilities are coordinating the athletic advising team and coordinating advising efforts for year 1 students through a separate university program called Cal Poly Scholars. Carly, take it away.
Great, thanks for having me. So as mentioned throughout this presentation today is about breaking down any barriers you might perceive about AI. And honestly, sparking that curiosity and inspiration of how you can incorporate AI into your job. So I'm a novice, but somehow in my office, because I've explored or incorporated AI in small ways. It's made me a little bit of a leg up of the experienced, but I'm learning and engaging and finding new ways to engage every day. So my aim today is to ignite curiosity, hopefully break down some barriers, and ask us to all step outside of our comfort zone and try something new, as we do as educators with our students. Wanting to help be a catalyst for change and breaking down barriers to try something new. So in this first slide here, right, if you have not explored beyond the login page of ChatGPT, this is what it looks like. I would encourage you to pull up a browser right now and try some of these prompts as we go through. It doesn't have to just be work related, right? We all have personal interests that we explore. That ChatGPT might be able to make things a little more efficient or bring new inspiration or creativity. So want to make sure it's not intimidating for all of us. But here's jumping into our first topic of how I practically use ChatGPT. So time management is a topic I talk with students with on the daily. And true story, I was talking with a student the other day, mid-conversation, I asked, what are some time management apps that you use to help with time management? And in that moment, I had the gut check of, I cannot name a single app other than your calendar to use for time management. And for me, it just made that like, what are some current practices? Because I can't think of an app. So what did I do? I turned to ChatGPT and I put, what are 5 apps that college students are using to help with time management? And it came up with this option. So then it got me thinking about, well, what are just some time management tools in general as a refresher? So that next slide here, if I put that into ChatGPT, and it came up with 5 more. Now I could have said 10, I could have said top 50, right? I just decided to narrow it down to 5. But then it furthered the next question, which is, what are 5 to 10 time management tips for student athletes? Now, once again, this is a topic I've talked about for a very long time. I feel very comfortable, but revisiting it and also just gaining inspiration in different ways. So then on this next slide, right, in the matter of 30 seconds, I put in 3 different prompts and it came up with 3 different ideas. And this is the inspiring part for me is, for me, I realized, oh, I've heard of Trello before, but I didn't even think of it in terms as a helpful app. I'm going to go look at that and see how I can help with student athletes. Or Notion, or once again, too, when we revise our year 1 introduction to college course, right? Here are some ways I can phrase it differently. So instantaneously having 3 different options here to then now use my brain and go implement it in different ways. So that can be used in many different topics of what we talk about on a day-to-day basis. It's just gaining that new inspiration. Another topic that I use pretty regularly now is a daily time saver is with emails, right? Helping to have efficient and productive content creation. I can't tell you how many times you have to send a complicated email to maybe a student athlete and a coach, and you're wanting to convey a certain tone. It's been a great way to generate some easy, quick ideas and overcome that writer's block of staring at a blank screen. It's also helped me spend less time wordsmithing and helping maybe consolidate points into more concise, less words throughout the whole lengthy email. I've used it to help just bring some creativity and consistency to the messages that I'm trying to convey. So showing you an example here on the next slide of efficient and productive content creation. This is actually an exact prompt I had a colleague send me about. In our office, we do some templated emails to send out to students at key points in the term. But they were experiencing a student not showing 3 times in a row. And they reached out and said, what should I do in terms of someone not showing up 3 times? I could have easily told her, hey, go ahead, come up with something, craft it as your own. But I also could have taken 3 minutes out of my time and drafted something for her. And so I turned to ChatGPT. I put the exact prompt into it, and this is what it came up with. I realized that's pretty lengthy. Let's see if we can modify it for length. And I said, can you consolidate into 250 words or less? And it came up. Third option, right, is I want to make sure we have a really supportive message to this student. And then here is something that it came up. So I went from staring at a blank screen, thinking it's going to take me a long time, to here are some opportunities I have. Now, of course, I'm not just copying and pasting this and putting it in the email, but it helped spark some ideas that I didn't have before. and it allowed me to draft something to customize to our program. I know what types of students that we're trying, the message we're trying to convey to students. And it just gave me that extra boost of confidence of like, hey, here I go. I can help a colleague, and I can, we both can move on with our day. Another area, so with emails, I will say too, sometimes I draft something and it's like, I just feel like I'm not getting a consistent tone. Maybe I put the email into ChatGPT and say, am I having a consistent message here? And see what the feedback it provides me. That's been another helpful way with emails. As an academic advisor, sometimes we wear many hats. When it comes to social media, I am not an expert, right? But we need to create a plan. And so sometimes you have an idea in your head of what you want it to look like. And here's a prompt that you could use for social media or any other ideas to just get you started, right? So here's, what I'm looking for and what platforms I want, but also wanting to create it in a table format with certain columns and see what it comes with. Once again, it's a great place for a starting place, but then take it and make it your own. And then lastly, I have used it in terms of hiring and staffing within our office. So to update our interview questions, right? Make it customized to both student athletes, student assistants, coaches, and faculty and staff. I've used it to incorporate our office values, used it to create email confirmation to our candidates, rubrics for how we rank our candidates. These are great ways that I've used for hiring and staffing. So once again, as an academic advisor, these were 4 ways that I've incorporated. I hope it can help lower the barrier to entry for each of you. And if any of these prompts didn't help you, I'd encourage you to take it on a personal note. Maybe make a meal plan for this week. And if you are a vegetarian, ask them, create a week's worth of dinners with focusing in on a vegetarian meals, right? Anything it might be to help you. And I hope the last thing I'll share too is I definitely used it to help prepare for this presentation, right? I had my own talking notes. I put it into ChatGPT for some inspiration on how to phrase things differently. So the options are endless, and I hope this helps remove some barriers of entry to you.
Wow, my mind is blown right now. I don't know about all of you. Thank you so much, Carly. While we have designed this webinar really with the practitioner focus, I think the idea of using some of these simple tools in our personal lives are no-brainers to me, and save time in our day-to-day routines. And really, I would, as Carly said, encourage you all to, step outside your comfort zone. We always are asking, our student athletes, our staff to do that. And so let's take our own advice and really, try to embrace some of these things that could really help. And again, I'm sure the audience can relate to the idea of not having enough hours in the day or wearing so many hats, you literally can't fit anymore on your head. So for those working in the field, whether you're in academics or student athlete development, you're a learning specialist, I think we all value efficiency and look for ways to get everything done while still serving our students and staff to the best of our ability. So our next presenter has capitalized on AI tools to increase efficiency and effectiveness in her role, and will highlight several specific areas where AI has helped her get the job done. So Kelsey Scher is in her 4th year working in student athlete development at the University of Pittsburgh and currently serves as the Assistant Athletic Director for Student Life, overseeing student athlete programs and services for the Kathy and John Pelusi Family Life Skills Program. Kelsey also serves on the N4A Board of Directors as the Region 1 Director. Turning it over to you, Kelsey.
Thanks, Rachel. So excited to be with you all today. We'll get some slides here pulled up for everybody. Thanks, Zach. So yeah, like Carly said, I'm here for part 2 of how we can use AI in our everyday life. And similar to what JT mentioned first, our goal isn't necessarily to reinvent behavior, but to give you tools and tips and tricks to increase your efficiency and effectiveness. And so I will say, again, I'm not an expert, but I ended up here today because I think I end up dabbling more often than not in different tools or platforms that might help increase my productivity, increase our product that we provide in our student athlete development office, etc. So that's our goal today, give you some tips for efficiency and effectiveness. And one caveat I will say is to use it as a means to an end and not necessarily an end in itself. So as Carly mentioned, we're using it for inspiration. So 3 areas that I'll cover that we use a ton in student athlete development, but I'm sure many of you are also focused in these 3 areas, is graphics, programming, curriculum design, and career development. So let's jump in. When it comes to graphics, I think most of us are using graphics in some way, shape, or form, whether it's creating flyers, posting announcements, highlighting programs. We just live in this visual age. And so 2 programs or platforms that I want to highlight. First, Microsoft Bing. And then Canva. So starting with Microsoft Bing, if your department or institution has Microsoft platform, you may already have access to this, but Microsoft Bing allows you to input exactly what you want to create in this little describe what you'd like box. So you could say anything from, create a student in the University of Pittsburgh's Cathedral of Learning, holding a padfolio, like raising their fist like they just got a job, and it will boop and give you the exact image or very close to the image that you're looking for to then edit and adapt. So again, you're using it as inspiration and not necessarily starting to begin from ground zero of creating a graphic. A more in-depth example, we'll move to Canva. We use Canva pretty regularly on our staff because it allows us to collaborate across multiple staff members. But Magic Studio is the input within Canva that is the AI focus. So you can use it related for flyers, posters, presentations, or even creating videos. So give it a little bit more in depth. We're going to focus on this middle portion on the bottom, on how you might use it for a presentation. It didn't give a full fleshed out example, but just a brief one. So if we'll go to the next slide, when you click the presentation button, it'll show up this lovely page that gives you clear directions on how to use Magic Design, which I think is one of the most beneficial elements of this platform. But as you can see, it instructs you to click the search bar, identify what you would like to search for, and then how to apply, what you're searching for, etc. So in the top left, I clicked college athletics recruiting presentation. I cut off a little bit there. But all of us are probably doing some form of recruiting at our institutions. And every once in a while, we may need some inspiration or a little refresh for our recruiting materials. So I chose a presentation example that is called Teamwork Makes the Dream Work. It's the red example here that we'll show you on the next slide. So when we get to our example, Magic Design produced a 10-slide deck. And so I copied just the 3 slides to show you what a visually appealing presentation might look like, just produced in about 2 seconds from Canva. But again, the goal isn't necessarily to have the platform do the work for you. It's to provide the inspiration of how could I take what I have now and level up or enhance it. So that is Bing Image Creator and Magic Design in Canva. Our second way that you can use AI for efficiency and effectiveness is program creation or curriculum. So being a little vulnerable here, I figured I would show you some of my ChatGPT topics in 2023. And you can see that it runs the gamut of different areas or topics, everything from global holiday feast to leadership curriculum to farewell and gratitude to terminating employees, you name it. These different topics have generated just different ideas for me in my current role. And so as we move on to the next slide, we're going to focus on how I used it for creating leadership curriculum. So each year at Pitt, we have a Panther Leadership Conference that's hosted every summer. And this past summer, we knew we wanted to focus on the topic of communication. And so as we were brainstorming and thinking about what would this 2-day curriculum look like, historically, I would reach out to colleagues, ask their opinion. I'd read research on different emerging adult communication, trends, etc. I'd put in a lot of time and effort to kind of do the background research to lead into, okay, what is the structure of the 5 workshops that we're going to have? And what is the focus of this conference going to be? And what are the outcomes that we want to produce? Instead, this year, we used ChatGPT and said, hey, create us a 2-day leadership curriculum that then produced about 10 to 15 different topic sessions that then I could use to say, okay, what do we like? What do we don't like? What are the experts saying? What do our colleagues say? And really use it as a source of inspiration that then led to more efficient and productive conversations as we were building out the curriculum. So on the next slide, I'll also show you kind of the ChatGPT funnel. Again, it's really helpful because it keeps all of your specific topic information in one thread. So you'll see we started with a 2-day leadership curriculum focused on communication, which then led to, okay, give us activities, which then led to crucial conversations and so forth. So I think it can be a really helpful tool, again, just to inspire some inspiration or inspire you as you're creating your curriculum, but then to build upon it with your staff, with other experts in the area that you're trying to build programming. Alrighty, and then last but not least, again, using it as a tool for creating conference themes. Oh, Zach, thank you. I did want to say at some point, you know, when I first started using ChatGPT, I said, can you please create this? You can just tell it what to do and it will just spit out everything you need in terms of idea generation. So I do want to say, you know, witty titles with the word connections produced 10 different options for us that then we took and said, okay, we don't really like any of these 10, but they provide us a foundation to come up with something better. So again, increasing efficiency, effectiveness, and allowing us all to just be a little bit more productive. All right, last platform or area that I'll talk about is career development. A couple of platforms in here. First is called VMOC. And with a basic Google search, it seems like a variety of institutions have VMOC as part of your career development office. And so VMOC is an AI platform that allows students to either create or upload a resume, and it will provide AI, developed feedback. So on the next slide, you'll see, again, a little vulnerable. I uploaded my resume to VMOC, and as you can tell, I got an F. I got a score of 45 if it's out of 100. But on here, you can see that a student will get feedback related to the overall impact, the presentation, and the competencies. And I appreciate this platform because it somewhat gamifies the career development space, which can make it a little bit more fun in your career meetings with students to say like, all right, well, what does the platform say? And then does that make sense for what you're applying for or how you're trying to edit your resume? I think from an initial perspective, it's a great resource to use for our folks who are just starting to develop a resume. Because if for those that meet one-on-one with students and talk career, I'm sure that using action verbs is something that you're constantly encouraging students to do with the resume. And so on the next slide, you'll see that when students upload their resume, this platform will actually encourage them to use those action verbs, which may save some time in your meeting with them. So that is one career development platform. The last one I'll talk about is headshots. And so first off, we've got Profile Pic Maker. It's a free AI headshot generator. You just need a photo of yourself in some type of professional clothing. You don't necessarily need the right background. It will automatically edit that out for you. So on the next slide, you get to see my headshot a bunch of different times. But you can see that, I took a pretty basic or 2 different basic headshots, input them in the generator, and this is what it spit out, which if we're using for, LinkedIn, for different social platforms, really this gets the job done. And I was talking about this with someone earlier, but if you're really trying to hustle, you could go to like a very nice like fashion design store, have your student or yourself try on some really nice business professional clothes, take a photo, and then upload it to this platform that then, you know, you look perfect and you feel perfect because the background is edited. So lots of great options. It definitely increases accessibility, and prevents us from having to, you know, have stations for our student athletes to take these headshots. On the next page, if you're looking for something that's a little bit more intensive, Fodar, I don't know exactly how you say it, will create an AI avatar image for you if you upload 4 to 15 shots of yourself that are like mid chest to top of the head. You do have to pay for this service. I think the minimum is 40 images for $20. So if you're really looking for like an elevated shot or something in the creative space, you can use this platform as well. So with that, again, a few tips and tricks on how to utilize AI for inspiration in your day-to-day life. And again, our goal, if we'll go to the goal slide, our goal is to increase efficiency and effectiveness, to ultimately give more time back to you, whether it's you want to start new projects at work or you just want to have more work-life balance. And again, I'll always say, remember, use it as a means to an end, and not an end in itself, at least for now. So thanks everybody, and I will pass it back to Rachel.
Whoa. Okay, so Kelsey, that was amazing. You shared so many real world applications of AI for practitioners that I think I'm ready to dive in. And for those in attendance, I hope you are too. You know, as someone who was previously in the field, graphic design like that, the Canva tool would have been so amazing. You know, building those curriculums, you know, I used to teach a first year seminar course, like would have given me so much inspiration. And again, I really appreciate you pointing that out. You know, use it as a means to an end and not an end in itself. And I think Carly mentioned this too, like there's just so many ideas and inspiration that you can get from these tools. And so I think that's where we should live, you know, right now as we continue to explore. So as we've heard, AI can be a huge help for everyday tasks and to increase your efficiency and effectiveness in your job. But how can it assist practitioners as we look to support our students? So our next presenter is going to knock your socks off as she walks through live demos of using AI to assist in the academic development of student athletes, as well as to develop training programs for academic support staff. Allison Harlan Smith is the Associate Director of Educational Services and a Learning Specialist at Clemson University, where she works with a caseload of students and leads the Strategic Mentor Program training and Summer Bridge program. Allison, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Rachel. I'm super excited and also slightly nervous that everybody is saying we broke ChatGPT, so that'll be fun, but we got this. It'll be great. I think from my perspective in athletic academic services, we're in this really interesting time where so many cool things can be done by AI, but learning specialists and academic advisors, we're just limited in what we can and cannot do based on university policies or department policies, or even like what professors will allow and not allow in their classes. So what I'm about to model for y'all is based on that framework. Here at Clemson in our athletic academic services department, we already have a policy where we do not allow students to work on or complete and submit any graded assignments during tutoring or mentoring sessions. And so now that we have AI and we're trying to figure out how to deal with it, what we've done to err on the side of caution is just tell all of our tutors and mentors and even us learning specialists, we've made it so that our answer is we cannot use ChatGPT or AI for any writing assignments in our sessions. I know writing is the big scary thing where everyone's like, oh no, it might plagiarize. We can't teach our students how to use it. So instead of using it for writing, what I've done with my students is work on study skills, test taking skills, and I've even used it to help create training programs for our tutors and mentors, kind of like what Kelsey showed for her student athlete development. And by focusing on those skills with my students, I don't have any reservations about it because I'm not using it to help them write something. What they're doing with it is not graded work. It's just study skills and test taking skills. So I am going to share my screen and I really hope that ChatGPT works. Hopefully y'all can see that. But what I did when I first started playing around with ChatGPT was I would ask it just a simple question. Like I said, create multiple choice questions for an intro to sociology class for college students. And your very basic, straight up vocabulary things is what came up. So that's great, helpful for some students, but where I found that my students are really struggling is that professors are no longer asking straight up definition questions. They're asking a lot more in-depth application-based questions. So I needed my students to practice applying that knowledge. And within that, I would have a student here be like, oh, you didn't do so hot on that sociology exam. Like, let's look at it. Let's see why you didn't do so well. And my students straight up tell me, Allison, the question was a paragraph long. And then each answer choice was like 2 sentences. I can't read that much. That's too confusing for me. So I said, you know what? We need to build that stamina. We need to get them to be able to do those kinds of things. So instead, I changed my question. And I said, can you create long multiple choice questions, again, to build that stamina for an intro to sociology class for college students that requires the application of material? And I got exactly what I was looking for. ChatGPT comes up with a scenario and different answer choices where the students have to apply their knowledge and they have to read the whole thing. So I would guide the student, have them type this in, and then we can sit there and practice different test taking strategies. Okay, let's go through and let's find what the question is. Then we can look at process of elimination. Are there answer choices that we can eliminate? Those test taking skills that our students may not have learned, I can now have them practice without spending hours making a practice test myself. Another thing that I've done is in their tutor or mentor sessions, they can talk about what is the format for the test. Maybe this time it's a short answer test and the students haven't done many short answer tests. So the mentor, the tutor in their session or with me can guide them into, okay, now we're going to look at some short answer practice test questions for your political theory class. And then the students get to practice that format. Again, super easy, spits out exactly what I'm looking for. And then the students get practice just like they would for their sport, right? Make that analogy. And then sometimes they just want a study guide. So this is another area that I've encouraged our tutors and mentors, learning specialists. This is how we can use it. So you can ask ChatGPT to create a study guide. So the student goes on ChatGPT, they say, create a study guide. These are terms that the professor gave them, either in the syllabus or in a study guide made by the professor. And then I added here and give study tips. So you throw that into ChatGPT, and instead of just asking questions, it will give you content and information, some questions to practice, some definitions and concepts so the student isn't having to look all of them up. It's all in one place. And then what I love is at the bottom there are these study tips, because that's what I asked for. Because our students, we might sit there and tell them all the time, okay, hey, use some flashcards, go back and review your text, maybe get a study partner. But hey, this time it's ChatGPT saying it, not me. So maybe there's a better chance that they'll actually listen and take some of this advice. And if they're sitting in there with their tutor or their mentor, they can say, okay, ChatGPT just made us this study guide. What should we do with it? Okay, well, let's make a concept map. We can make some flashcards. And for the rest of that session that they're in there, they have an active way to study that was set for them. So those are different ways that I've used it with students. I've also, like I said before, used it for creating trainings. So I've spent the last 2 weeks on top of all my new students coming in and trying to plan our summer bridge that we do in the spring and the fall, also had to train our tutors and mentors. So instead of spending days trying to plan exactly what I wanted to do, you can have ChatGPT do it for you. You can ask it to create a training about reading, and then it will give you a minute-by-minute agenda with what should happen, what activities you can do in it. And you can be very specific, like Kelsey did earlier. She said a 2-day thing. I can tell it I need this in 60 minutes. and it'll give you all of these ideas. I'm obviously going to take that and then mold it to what I need the training to be, but it has so many ideas for you. And within that, let's say I'm looking at this and I don't have time to come up with some paraphrasing activities for the tutors, the mentors to do. So I can then ask ChatGPT to give me examples of hands-on paraphrasing activities for that tutor training. And it will give me example sentences. It'll give me different paraphrased responses. So I'm not even coming up with the material. All of that time that I'm saving can be spent doing other things because I know the beginning of the semester is so crazy. And then finally, the last thing I've done, like I said, we do like a summer bridge in the summer and in the spring and the fall. So instead of training the tutors or the mentors, maybe I want to work with student athletes on a study skills workshop. So I can ask it to give me a 45-minute workshop. And again, it will go down and break it down minute by minute. It'll talk about different time management strategies, kind of like what Carly was showing earlier. But this gives me a lesson that I can just take, mold to what I need it to be, and work on it with student athletes, with tutors or mentors. And it's great. So hopefully those are some helpful tips and how I've used ChatGPT. And hopefully that was helpful.
Allison, are you kidding? That was so helpful. I love that you demoed that in real time, because I think it gives everybody a sense of, how quickly like these things are coming up and how easy it really is to use ChatGPT. I definitely think the prompts are very important. So definitely a big piece of the puzzle to get the result you're looking for. And many of us supervise support staff in our roles. So the idea of using AI to create training programs for different groups is brilliant. So thank you so much for sharing that. Wow. What a journey this has been so far. And it's not over yet. So now that we have seen how AI can be used on a personal and professional level, both to assist us in our roles and support our students and staff, I'm going to invite Dr. Torres back to take a closer look at using AI as a faculty member and within the higher ed system as a whole. So let's go, Dr. Torres.
Thank you, Rachel. I just wanted to carry a thread forward from Kelsey and Allison to think, especially something that Kelsey said about making our lives easier and saving time, and then watching Allison in real time, showing how this is helpful for educators. I thought I could talk a little bit about the higher education experience and my role directing a Center for Teaching and Learning. For context, for those who don't know what such a center is, I'm largely a faculty support. So I help faculty design their courses, teach their courses. I work a lot on carrying ideas from the student experience and what students expect out of a university experience into the classroom, and how college faculty can be facilitators of that experience and working with students to create the future that we all want to see. That sounds amazing, right? And that's a wonderful job description. But here's the thing. I became a director of a Center for Teaching and Learning during the pandemic. And so what that meant was we were all shuffled into this Zoom atmosphere, right? Like this idea of a webinar, which for a lot of us feels brand new. Like there was Skype. I have no idea what happened to Skype. That's another conversation. Suddenly it became Zoom, I guess. But we were all pivoting into new strategies and new areas that we had no idea how to navigate. We survived the pandemic in ways that we figured out how to create a multimodal classroom. We can connect learners across the country, across the world, into these different learning environments. But then AI appeared as a new challenge, and then we all had to pivot again. So I'm sharing this to just to communicate that my entire career directing the Center for Teaching and Learning has been in a time of crisis, has been in a time of radical adaptability and constant pivoting. And so what I've realized is that a lot of faculty, myself included, are just tired. We're like, we are tired. We haven't had that time to reflect, to move forward, to even think about what we've done in the past, the successes and the failures and the collective trauma of surviving a pandemic. And what I have been gravitating to, especially in this conversation, is how AI, rather than being another scare or rather than being another crisis, can come in, as Allison just demonstrated, and make our lives so much easier in how we use it. you know, a lot of the focus so far and the first webinar has been on the student experience, like how should students use it? But I really appreciate the time spent for us to think about how we should use it. So for instance, on a college level, you know, when ChatGPT first hit the scene, there were some articles published in the Atlantic titled "The College Essay is Dead," right? And then there were some other publications in the New Yorker and just across, you could Google Inside Higher Education, Chronicle of Higher Education, and everybody is saying that there will be no more writing in college. Like the essay is just no longer going to be a product. We were focused on that outcome, that material product, and how it was threatened by ChatGPT and ChatGPT in particular, but AI more generally. But what we are learning today is how AI can help us as a process. So that product is going to change for sure. I don't think it's dead. I don't think that we need to be alarmists, but I do think those processes are going to be different, and it's going to be able to help us as we're learning today. For instance, as a faculty member, thinking about what Allison just demonstrated live, right? There's a new skill set that's required to be a good educator, and the faster we develop that skill set, the easier our lives are going to become. That skill set is around an AI literacy, right? We've always talked about information literacy. How do we look at something that we get online, especially in the advent of Wikipedia and Google? How do we know that what we're reading is trustworthy? We're also in an age of disinformation and misinformation. That skill set is now amplified, and the more we practice it and develop it, again, the easier we're going to make our lives, the more we can reduce our labor and the tasks involved. So how well are we, or how adept are we at looking at outputs from ChatGPT or any AI platform and being able to think about whether this information is good, whatever good means in that context, how helpful it is, how relevant it is to the situation. And so as an educator, that's kind of what we've always done. And so if I go on to ChatGPT, as Allison just demonstrated, and I ask it for some test questions, I'm still thinking about whether those are good. If I ask it for learning objectives, if I work with faculty to use ChatGPT to design their course or even a class activity, as I've done, where I sit down with faculty and I say, let's try this tool out. What are some examples of active learning? And it will provide those ideas. Now, it doesn't mean that the faculty member is going to literally cut and paste what ChatGPT provides into their lesson plan. It doesn't mean that practitioners have to literally just follow the script of ChatGPT, but as an aid in process, as thinking about AI as an aid in our design and how we design our lives, it's a thought partner, right? It's a conversation that we're having. I ask my students, when they work with ChatGPT in the first year seminar course that I teach, to include a cover letter, whether they're creating an essay or a project or a podcast, or some of them create their own webinars, I ask them to tell me how they've used ChatGPT, and they'll also include the transcripts, the conversations that they've had with it. And often they will share with me that they had 20 pages of conversation with ChatGPT to produce a 2-page reflective essay. Like, they've actually put more work into it, and not more work in terms of busy work or labor, but more thought. They're developing this AI literacy. They're developing a skill in prompt engineering that really reduces the labor that I have to provide as an educator to show them step by step, and we can engage with it in more trial and error basis and more experiential learning. So it's almost this shift from product to process, and the focus on literacy and prompt engineering, right? These are the skills that are going to move us forward in a much easier, a much healthier fashion in our work lives balance, and also enable us to reach students where they are. As an example, I had a conversation a couple weeks ago with some senior administration at my university, and the conversation was about whether we should have a standard policy around AI use at our university, whether everybody across the board, regardless of major, discipline, or faculty level, should subscribe to that same policy. And I was against that, because I thought that local context of how it's used is going to be very different, is going to change, and we want to honor the diversity of expertise that we have across campus. This administrator said during this meeting, is ChatGPT the end of the professor, right? Like, will we need college faculty if people can just learn learn with AI or learn from AI? And my response was, it is not the end of college faculty. It is not the end of the professor. It might be the end of the lecture, though, because that format, right? The format that nobody's ever really been too excited about, which requires a lot of work. I don't know if any of you watch TED Talks, but imagine the prep that goes into an individual TED Talk. That's what faculty have to do 2 to 3 times a week to prepare for a lecture. Now, if we think about AI as the end of the lecture, what does that open up? What fills that space of no more lecture in a classroom? I've worked with many faculty, one in particular in the School of Nursing, who, because of using AI and leveraging it in the ways that we just saw throughout this presentation, throughout this panel, converted his classroom into escape rooms. So every class, students were trapped, not literally, but trapped in the room. And in order for them to find their way out of the room, they had to uncover clues that were around the room. And the only way to understand what those clues were, because they were tied to content, is they had to use, or if they needed it, they could use ChatGPT to refresh their memory on certain content, on certain textbooks, on certain articles. They could use the content from the pre-recorded lecture material that the professor had prepared. And so what happened was this radically new dynamic environment facilitated by a professor who realized my prep work is going to be a lot easier by using AI. And not only is it going to be easier, but it's going to become a lot more creative. What's cool about this, not having this standard policy and let it being leveraged, so that way each of us attending now, listening now, can follow our curiosity and think about, how can this tool work for me? It might be different if I'm teaching English than if I'm teaching biology. It might be different if I'm in college or if I'm in high school. But if we respect those differences and think creatively and curiously about how these tools work, we move from equality to equity, right? We're thinking of diverse learners and recognizing that they need diverse tools. Not everybody needs the same support systems. And what AI offers us is a menu of options for students based on prior knowledge, background, cultural linguistic diversity, to all have a level playing field in the classroom. And so this empowerment is what I've really been excited about recently, in terms of empowering faculty to no longer have to burn out to prepare really in-depth, entertaining lectures every class, but to also help us empower students to learn in different ways and to enter into the room as they are, and all of us meet in the middle, leveraging these new tools to just help connect us and to help move us forward and whatever our goals are. The last advice I want to share as we wrap up before I send it back to Rachel is that we should always, when you're prompting, part of that prompt engineering skills, we should always say please and thank you to AI, because when the robot revolution does happen, we want them to at least be kind to us. Thank you all.
Hey, that last part, heed that advice, right? The robot revolution. But again, I think, as I said at the beginning of this, thank you, Dr. Torres. I was so scared, and I think faculty too are a little terrified of AI, but maybe we can think of it more from the positive lens, and how can we embrace this and use this to help us what we do, in what we do, and not necessarily replace us. I think that's so important. And I love that you also mentioned, diversity of learners need a diversity of tools, right? That's so important. All right. Well, I want to thank all of our presenters. I don't know about you all, but I feel much more confident dipping my toe into the AI pool now. For those who have used it, I hope you were able to gain some practical skills and knowledge that will help you in your role, as well as those groups you serve. And for those who are hesitant like me, I hope this webinar provided some food for thought and a little bit of confidence to explore AI and its potential uses. So I am going to throw it over to Janelle to take us into Q&A and closing remarks.
Amazing. Well, Chaz introduced me earlier, but sometimes it's just better to hear me, right? But thanks to y'all so much for coming. I think, again, for me, AI always has sounded so scary, but now there are some real tangible takeaways and practical ways we can use AI. So I did want to mention a couple things. This webinar will be available on YouTube. So there's going to be a link where you can watch this back. It's being streamed there right now as well. And then we also are going to have the Q&A compiled together, and we'll have some resources available for y'all. It will be posted to Basecamp, and then we will also make sure we have who attended. So you will get that information. And if you don't for any reason, please feel free to reach out to me or anyone else, Rachel or Zach or someone on the team. But we want to make sure that this knowledge that is learned here isn't just kept in this webinar. We're all about sharing and making sure that we can succeed as professionals. So super excited as we join the robot revolution. Please and thank you. So if all the speakers want to pop on, maybe let's go a little roundtable, like a 30 to 45 second closing remark, maybe some thoughts. or anything that y'all would like to share, I think that would be amazing. And we'll start with, Carly, you're the first person I see. So Carly, I'm calling you out.
I appreciate everyone on this panel. I learned so much. I updated my profile pic as we were on it. So once again, for all of us as educators in this field, always encouraging to continuously learning. And something I didn't mention, and my own personal challenge here, right, is any area that I don't know about and I want the curiosity to learn more, I feel like I can turn to these tools to help be a continuous learner throughout the rest of my life. So, and even preparing for this and talking to my partner who uses AI in everyday job, right? And manipulating, using Excel to find certain formulas to help him do something in Excel, right? That my mind is blown. I can't even touch that yet, right? But one day I will. And when I need to, I feel like from everyone on this panel, gaining the encouragement to pull something up and take the time to learn it. So my ending remarks is don't be afraid to take that first step into the unknown and let your mind be blown of what you learned.
Love it. Kelsey, you want to go?
Sure. I would say, again, biggest takeaway, use it as a tool, and not as an end itself. And I would be doing an absolute failure for our director of IT if I didn't say, don't put any confidential information or competitive advantage information, into any AI platform, because the system learns by the information that gets put into it. So, a shout out to our IT person there, but again, use it as a tool, be open to exploring, trying new things, but also do it within a safe boundary.
Safety is the most important thing. Allison, what do you got for us?
Just for me, I've been texting with some people who are on this. I think as learning specialists and academic professionals, we just need to keep working together to see how we can use it for writing, for other purposes in the future. So I just look forward to keeping this conversation going.
Bring us home. All right, JT, you got anything else? Last call.
Just gratitude to be in connection with some really cool humans that have taught me things. I appreciate having this mindset of curiosity, because I think another fear, right, is that the more technology advances, the more it's going to disconnect humans. But technology is the reason we are all in this virtual room together. And I am so grateful to be connected with you all. So yeah, be curious, be connected, and blur the lines between the human and the artificial.
Awesome. Well, thank you all to our panelists. Y'all are so cool, first of all. And thank you for your time, energy, and effort. This stuff, I don't know how to do it, so thank you for teaching me. But I just wanted to give a quick thank you. So on behalf of M4A and its leadership, thank you to the presenters for taking the time to provide this practical knowledge and examples and great ideas that our membership can use. So attendees, thank you so much for being here. The virtual education team is super excited that you chose to spend this morning or afternoon or whatever time, wherever you are in the world, with us. And so thank you to our M4A leadership for supporting us as we aim to holistically develop all of our practitioners. So a recording, again, will be available on our YouTube channel. And so that will be linked in the chat. And then we will also send that as well. Zach has posted that. We also have a survey. So please take a few moments to complete our brief survey that's going to appear on the screen when the webinar ends. We just want your feedback. We want to make sure that we are serving you in the best way possible. So thank you, everyone. Hope you have a great winter season. Please stay warm. I'm in LA and it's 60 degrees and I have my space heater on. So I know I'm, not in the norm right now, but thank you so much for everything and let us know how we can help you. So that concludes today's presentation and have a great day.